Buzz, with all the, I guess now projections that A&M could, I heard somebody say they're a 2 seed now and they could play their way into a 1 seed and all these things. Does that conversation even come up with y'all as hey, just one more reason for, or one more thing for motivation, or y'all just stay away from that?
I think one of the things that we've been trying to concentrate on physically, mentally, with the words we use, and I think, I don't know what our guys say to you guys, but how can we strive, if we're on Team Bus One, how can we all strive to give our absolute best to the buckets that we're in charge of and be completely present to be accountable for those buckets? And I think you have to be careful. I mean, obviously, I'm aware of playing in the NCAA tournament and all those things, but if you're not careful, all of the things that you've worked to get to this point, you lose some of that if you can't be tough enough to do your job right now, so to say. And so what is next on our list? We're going to write thank you notes when we arrive at the hotel in Starkville. And our guys know that that's what's coming next. Rebounding clips are in the morning before we leave for shoot around. They know when that starts. And so once thank you notes are over, I know exactly what I'm going to do on my computer with the film relative to my game charts, the game day notes, all of those things. And so how can we strive to be our best and be present if we're on Team Bus One? And I think that's the best gift we can give to one another. Each coach, each player, those that are on the bus. And I know we probably expend too much money having a second bus, but that's on purpose. If you're on bus number 2, get on Twitter and talk about the seat as much as you want. But if you're on bus 1, we got to be locked in.
Chris Jans stepped into that role and has had pretty quick success. And what is it about him, his system, that Mississippi State's been able to just kind of keep things rolling consistently?
He's the most under-heralded head coach in the country, period, on both sides of the ball. I know that a lot has been said about how he plays defensively, and I tell him this every time I see him. You're the most under-heralded, undervalued coach in the country. Not in the SEC, not when he was at New Mexico State, not when he was at Bowling Green, not when he was at Chipola. He can really coach on both sides, and he utilizes his personnel. When he took over for Coach Allen, who was on the team, and how they played is drastically different than how he's utilizing his current team. He hires really good people. He's very aware of who he is and what his strengths are. I have the utmost respect. How he handles the media, how he handles his players, how he coaches his players. I think he's as good as there is.
Are y'all playing defense at almost peak level for what you're looking for?
We have for sure gotten a lot better. I think statistically, Olin, the thing that's helped us the most in regards to our ranking is that we're defensive rebounding better than we ever have. And I think that our plan prior to the ball being shot has always been good. Our numbers haven't always reflected it. And you hear coaches talk about first shot defense versus second shot defense. The reason our numbers are the best they've ever been is we're finishing the possession with the rebound. And I also think, and I've said this publicly many times, and you know this about Devin, I think the adjustments that he made, even on Saturday, I thought the timing of his adjustments, they have been pristine. And you never know when you're making those adjustments if they're going to work. But he's always has, but he has really studied those adjustments. We've practiced those adjustments more than ever before. That's a credit to the maturity of our group. But then we've executed those adjustments like whether it be what we're doing on the weak side, whether that be the ball screens, whether that's some of the stuff we do in the front court, it's been tremendous. But finishing with a rebound has helped us the most.
You talked about the need to improve the defensive rebounding and the need to improve the free throws, but
Yep.
you guys have done that in some regards too. But just
Yep.
as you enter the final third of the SEC slate, is there anything that you're looking at right now that you're like, okay, these are the last few nuts to screw and tighten as you hit the home stretch for the rest of the season?
You guys don't know Tex. Tex was a GA for us in our first year, and however this gets posted online, he's going to copy and paste the link and send it to Coach Jans. And so I don't want to say anything about what we're trying to do, but I think every coach post Valentine's Day plays those 3 weeks of the regular season probably in a different way. There's nothing that we have done that the Mississippi State staff is unaware of. Offensively, defensively, specials, and vice versa. And so I think when you get post-Valentine's Day, that's always a barometer of how thin the line is. And we do have two things that we always try to have two things on each side of the ball and how we appropriate our time in the film room and on the court. And our guys have been very receptive to that, to your point. And we have two for each as we go into week 8 in conference play. And they're like, if you ask some of our guys, they would say that's the details. You know, it's not a big rock that we're changing. It's the details of how can we buy a possession? How can we save a possession? How can we eliminate a possession for the opponent? How can we garner an extra one for ourselves? They're just the finite details. And our staff has done a really good job of anticipating and trying to organize how to address those and how to teach those, because whatever they are, they're not going to happen every single game, right? And so you have to be willing to give time to something that is going to happen at a low volume, but may be the difference in the game.
Schematically, what do they do that presents challenges for you guys?
Yeah, I would say they're completely different than they have been, as I mentioned. And how they're playing offensively is way faster than ever before. Maybe as potent of a perimeter combined. And how they utilize their forwards to combine with that is atypical. And if you're asking, I'm sure you've seen some of it. Like, their point guard is number 4 in my opinion, and that immediately changes the vibe of, so how are you going to guard him? But then relative to what he's doing with 13, with 2, with 0, like, it just kind of puts you in a quandary. And then 3's their second leading scorer, but they're utilizing him as if he's 4 and a forward and at the rim. Like, it's just a lot of stuff going on, and it's happening at a very fast pace. 58% of their shots have been shot in the first 12 seconds, and then they're still like among the nation's best at not fouling and getting fouled, and they're tremendous on the glass on both sides of the ball, like tremendous.
Now that you are in this kind of post-Valentine's down the stretch, I know you're not looking at the seeding and everything right now, but going to Mississippi State, just knowing that this week ahead, you got Tennessee at home, and just how critical is this week? When you look at kind of the
Well, I know we'll get together again, and I don't want to be a jerk. We got to do today and tomorrow, and like, I understand the storyline and whatever you guys need to put on TV and the internet, but man, we will have our hands full in every possible way, and we'll have to be our best in a 1 or 2 possession game, we hope, tomorrow night at a place that for Texas A&M has been very difficult for us to have success with. I know Tennessee's not playing, so that question will still apply when I see you on Friday. But we got to see if we can figure out how to sneak out of there tomorrow alive.
To that, go ahead.
Sorry, just one more. Ever since that Texas game, you guys have, not lost since then. Is there some sort of maturing or lessons learned, do you think, during this last stretch of 5 games that you've seen your team?
We haven't gotten any dead ball technical substitution fouls. That would be one thing that probably helps. Yeah, I think anytime you get into February and you get into post Valentine's Day, you see some teams that begin to fade for a variety of reasons, and you see some teams that are you see the crescendo, or so you hope, and you see an uptick in their execution. You see maybe similar to what you've seen from Andy and Solo in the past week, like, oh, that's a little bit more than we're accustomed to. And I just think that whether it's been 2.5 weeks, or I hope that it's this week, I hope that it's tomorrow, like, can our group, and I think some of what I would attest that to is we've been able to play consecutive games with all 10 players healthy. And I think when you get to this time of the year and you see it in the SEC and you see it in every other league, like, you pray just as much for health as you do for what your ranking is, because you know that if you're ranked, the health is a large contributor to continuing along that stretch. And Solo being healthy consecutive games, H being back with us, like, I think that that's a part of us. Is there one guy that you can zero in on? It's like playing Mississippi State. I don't think it's just one guy, but I think if I were being objective about our group, I don't think it's one guy either. I think there's a lot of explanation points when it comes to 4, just like there is for 12 on their team. But if you think that that's it, it's not. And so I think our health is really important too. And I think some of that stretch that you're talking about, we lost that game. And that was the only game we've lost where we all played. So being able to string that together, I know we've had some missing person games since then, but particularly over the last 3 or 4, that's helped us.
Along the lines of health too, you guys have continued to play a 9-10 rotation consistently.
Yes.
And nobody's even averaging over 30 minutes a game.
Yes, and I think that's healthy.
Yeah. How much has the volume of rotation helped, especially with you guys play so physical, and the league in general has that helped, or does it not even truly matter with how physical the league is?
It is obviously very physical, and I think all that you said is spot on. And what I would maybe attribute some of that to was some of the things that you guys heard me saying in November and December. Not to act as if I'm a civilian, but like, oh, we're playing a tough non-conference schedule. And yeah, I know, but the wear and tear that comes with that relative to your health, I think some of that as a staff we were picking up on, staying in Vegas for 8 days and playing 3 high major teams, coming back and playing in the ACC Challenge. Before you go to Vegas, play Ohio State. When you get done with Wake Forest, go play Texas Tech. When you get done with Texas Tech, go play Purdue. Like, I think we were kind of learning that in non-conference. We're not going to be able to just play 8. And I think it's kind of blossomed in a good way. There's very good succinct role definition in our group. That's hard to find. Even with 8, that's hard to find in 2025. But it speaks to the character of our group that we have great role definition with 10. And we need all 10 for us to be the best we can be, so that there are choices of who could maybe be superlative that particular day. But I think some of that, Alex, we learned back in November and December. Zoo doesn't play at Central Florida. Solo had been in concussion protocol for the 12 days, not immediately prior to Orlando, but close. And so, like, that's not why we lost. They beat us straight up. But some of the rotational thoughts kind of grew throughout those 6 weeks that I'm speaking of.
Mentioned it a little bit earlier, but somewhat anecdotally, it just seems
Good
like,
word.
Thanks. It seems like when y'all do go to Mississippi State, it's a place that things can get just a little bit crazy. I think on the good side, Dre hitting that buzzer beater.
E-man with the fingertip and
Yeah.
that was year 3.
Yeah, and then there's some that were close on the other. Like, it just seems like a place that crazy things happen. Is that kind of the feeling that you get when you walk into that stadium?
Yeah, what is the name of their arena? I forgot.
Yeah.
Coliseum.
Yeah, yeah, I kind of get that feeling. You know that it's going to be physical. You know that it's going to be a heavyweight fight. Raucous crowd. High decibel level. Every possession, you can feel how monumental it is. Yeah, it's probably a different vibe. Maybe every place has a different vibe. But I'm pretty good at remembering possessions and numbers and scenarios, and I kind of remember all of those games in Starkville, even prior to Coach Jans, even when Coach Holland was there, and they've all kind of had that same, what I anticipate it'll be tomorrow night at 6.